Yo, what's up guys? I just reroll here, and in today's video we are going to be going over my strategy for the 12.14b patch. Basically this is my strategy. It's like kind of my personal tier list. So, you know, if you're just interested in what I'm doing and what I consider strong, I think I have a pretty good grasp on the meta right now. To be honest, I played a good amount when the patch first came out for 12.14b because I wasn't playing much in the ASOL patch. I didn't like it that much when it was just one comp being forced the whole time. But this patch is really fun. I think it's a lot more balanced. So I was just grinding a bunch, and I started off by trying to force reroll comps a lot, and I lost a lot of LP forcing reroll comps. So I think I've kind of grasped the best way through my mistakes basically of playing, and now I'm going more towards what seems to be quite meta. So, but let's get into it. Here we have a sword start. So I would recommend a sword start basically. And if we can't get a sword, I go for the giant belt or chain vest, and if I can't get those, then I'm trying to get rod or bow, and cloaked here and glove are really going to be my last options, although I do have some pivots for each of these too. For early item slams in general, I want to slam items for tempo early game. Like obviously you can lose streak, but I think the way the current meta is, like trying to win streak and just play for tempo is super good. So I love building early items like Static Shiv, Ionic Spark or Sunfire Cape. These are probably the three best early game items that you can like win a lot of rounds thanks to these items with the splash damage basically. However, if I go for a sword start, then I'm most likely always slamming Giant Slayer. Bloodthirst is also a good choice because BT is like a great item on Shiryu, as well as SyFen, as well as, let's say, Yon or Yasuo in Daeja comps, which we'll talk about later. Gunblade is also not bad on Anivia or Daeja. So those would be my primary slams in the early game, out of my start basically. Alright. So let's get started talking about 4 and 8 cost carries. So not too many reroll comps here as we see. The first comp I want to talk about is Anivia Shiryu 6 Jade. I think everyone knows this. It's an S tier comp. Let's take a look at it. So Anivia Shiryu Jade, basically it's one of the comps that's pretty much like the most consistent. We're likely to get top 4 when we go for this comp. It is very contested, so we do want to 2-star our Shiryu. And a lot of people opt to like try and 3-star Anivia, but given how contested she is right now, I don't find that very reliable. So I wouldn't really go for 3-star Anivia unless like it's uncontested. And because of that, I don't even think we need to like try and put too many items on Anivia, you know, like 1 or 2 items is enough. Nico is also like essential. The 2 splash units here are really Bard and Yasuo, but those 2 units are also like hard to get. They're like 5 cost units. This is a level 8 team composition, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this is level 8. So like having these 2 units splashed in is tough. So until you find these 2, you could just do something like 2 assassins maybe. I even had like a game where it was like Talon, Kiana and Ornn. This isn't like the best, but I mean until we find Yasuo and Bard it can do. You could also just do Ornn, Kiana, like let's bring back Ornn, Kiana and like Sona instead for evokers. So you could also like get rid of Ornn and keep Evoker and Mystic in there. So yeah, there's like a bunch of different things you can do until we find Bard and Yasuo, which are really the 2 that we want. And if we find Bard, we generally always want to put Bard in, along with Lulu. Yasuo can be kind of interchanged for Soraka or Pyke, to be honest. Like Soraka or Pyke are also not bad. But this will be the Jade Shiryu comp. I think most people know it, and sword starts are great for this particular comp, obviously. Shiryu wants like at least 2 sword items, and it's very strong. Alright, next up, let's talk about Daeja Cav Mirage. It's a very good, strong comp right now, especially like a few of the Mirage variants. So if you get like Dawnbringers or Spell Swords, it's S tier, it can win you the game. However, like Warlords is also good, Tierlist is okay, and Executioners is kind of like A, maybe B tier. Like Executioners isn't the best, but you can still play Daeja with Executioners. I would say like if you get Pirates or Electric, then it's fine to use like 2 to 4 Mirage early game, just for tempo or for econ. But other than that, like we don't want to end up playing Daeja basically. So let's get into like the Daeja Cav Mirage basic comp. Some people run it with Guild, you know, I prefer just doing the standard Cavalier version. So our two carries here are going to be Nunu and Daeja. These are kind of default Daeja items, but to be honest, Daeja items will depend a lot on the Mirage variant. So like, for example, in Dawnbringers, we have no need for healing. So we can replace this Gunblade for something like a Rage Blade, or I don't know, a second Archangels maybe, or like a dual Gauntlet, for example. In Spell Swords, we want extra attack speed. So we want Guinsu's Rage Blade, maybe instead of Archangels, because like Spell Sword, like Gunblade will do well in Spell Sword. Executioners, we don't want extra crit chance, but we do want extra crit damage. So like JG is pretty much essential. Like Giant Slayer is the one item that I'd put on Daeja almost always, I think. Static Shiv also works with Daeja really well, especially in something like Spell Sword. Duelist, we do not want any attack speed, so we should not be using like Static Shiv or Rage Blade. Giant Slayer is okay, so it could be like Giant Slayer, Gunblade, or it could even just be Gunblade IE JG, for example. That would probably be the best. IE JG, that would be super good with a Duelist dexterity thingy. Yeah, and then for Nunu, we want to put as many health stacking items onto Nunu, because Nunu's ability stacks with how much more health he has basically. So as we see, if Willem's target has less health than he does before the bite, it deals an additional 33% damage and becomes true damage. So the more health Nunu has, the more damage Nunu has. In addition to that, Nunu is super durable, so Warmogs, Sunfire Cape, and Ionic Spark, I think these are like the 3 best items on Nunu. Like if I can ever go for this 3-item combo on Nunu, I do it, and it's super strong on him, and he's like a secondary carry. At level 8, you can also try to 3-star him. At level 8, by the way, this is a level 7 team comp, so at level 8, we want to either put in, well, first thing, we want to put in Yasuo for Leona. And if you get 8 Mirage, in general, go for 8 Mirage. On some of them, it's not super necessary, but in general, it's going to be good. So if you can get 8 Mirage with Mirage Spat, put the Mirage Spat on Hecarim or something and get 8 Mirage. That will be super good. But in general, at level 8, we put in Yasuo for Leona whenever we find Yasuo, and then we look for either Bard or Soraka. So obviously, Dawnbringers doesn't need Soraka, but in most of the other variations, I do really like Soraka with this comp. And yeah, I think that's basically covering it for this comp. Alright, so next up, let's talk about SyFen team compositions. SyFen team compositions are still like really good in this current patch actually. I'd rate it at least A tier. Maybe it doesn't like peak as high as, let's say, Shiryu or Daeja comps. But that being said, SyFen tends to be less contested, so you're gonna have an easier time picking up SyFen comps in general. And because of that, he can be very consistent to get top 4 games with. So I definitely recommend the SyFen comps, and notice that between all these 3 dragons, it's quite easy to flex sword starts, and it's quite easy to just flex in general from any like opener. Like I can go into any of these three from like a Jade start, from like a Cavalier start, whatever. Let's start with SyFen mages. So there's 3 SyFen comps here that I listed. Like the core thing is we have SyFen items, so let's just open. This would be SyFen mages. So SyFen mages, it's when I have a mage start with trainer. Zoe is replacing Nami here, so early game we'd have Nami instead. And yeah, once we find SyFen, we basically just put SyFen in with the mages. Over here we got 3 mages, 4 whispers. When we find Bard, we put him in. Until we find Bard, we can just use something else like a random Corki, for example. And this would be SyFen mages. Next up is SyFen bruisers. Usually you build up to this from like some sort of bruiser start, obviously. And so it's going to be 4 bruisers with 2 assassins. The tough thing here is we're going to be looking for Pike, and Pike is obviously not very easy to find, but it's a level 8 comp, so you know we'll be looking for him at level 8, and he's going to end up being our secondary carry. SyFen items in general will be quite similar in all the comps. Like it's generally going to be BT and QSS. Those are the 2 core items. And then you want like 1 attack speed item. So like a Rage Blade is good, Titan's Resolve is good. So that's the typical SyFen Bruisers comp. Then we have SyFen Assassins. Like with each of these dragons, it's quite like maybe not Daeja, but with Shiryu and SyFen, it's quite easy to like change the other units around it. Like Assassin SyFen, also super good. If you can find the Assassin emblem and put it onto SyFen, like there's 2 uses for the Assassin emblem really right now. It's either Olaf or SyFen, and Olaf requires an early Olaf. I mean, trust me, like I tried a lot just forcing Olaf without getting an early Olaf. It can work out sometimes, but it's nowhere near as good as if you had picked up Olaf from the start of the game. So Assassin emblem with SyFen though is always going to work. It's very good, especially in this meta when there's like a ton of Corkis, and I'm in masses and I'm still playing with guys who clump up against SyFen. It's just not going to work, you know? So this would be SyFen Assassins. If you want, you could also get rid of, let's say, these 2 Assassins and play 4 Bruiser instead, so like Shen Silas. But I prefer 6 Assassins, but it's not going to be a big difference basically. So SyFen Assassins, also very good. Alright, so next up let's talk about Corki team compositions. Corki is definitely S tier right now. He's probably got the highest win share in general. So what I mean by that is, in general in my lobbies, it's usually going to be a Corki comp that's going to be top 1ing, because Corki kind of counters Shiryu in a way, and like in order to beat a Corki comp you need like a high rolling assassin, I feel like, in general, or a super high rolling like Daeja or something. So Corki is probably the best comp to win with. However, that being said, I do think it's hard to play Corki because we require trainer start. Like trainer really helps Corki comps, so I'm not really playing Corki comps much because we require a trainer start. And in the addition, it just seems like every person is in love with Corki right now. Like when I'm playing in my games, I feel like there's like 4 other Corki players, or 3 other Corki players whenever I play Corki. So it requires some high rolling to some extent when playing Corki. So that's why I'm not like a super big fan of Corki, even though he is very strong. But if we're high rolling, then sure, go for him. So Corki Idus, this is the most typical version of Corki, obviously. I mean, yeah, it's just got Corki, Sona, Tristana and Lulu as the core pieces, and almost always we want to find Bard. If we cannot find Bard until we find Bard, then we can use like Thresh or Braum. Also, once we find Bard, we can also remove Jinx for like Braum, I guess, or Thresh, to have 2 Guardians in there. But yeah, this would be a level 8 comp right here. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This would be, yeah, they're all going to be level 8 comps here, I think. So this is certainly a very strong comp. And the typical one. The next one would be Corki SyFen. It's actually performing slightly better right now in terms of statistics. So if we can go for Corki SyFen, this might be the better option. In this scenario, I believe, like, to be honest, I haven't gotten the opportunity to play this much this patch. Even though I've been spamming games this patch, I haven't played this version much. I've played Corki Idis and Corki Shiryu more, just because I'm not too picky about my dragons, you know? Like, dragons are pretty rare, they're strong. I see a dragon, I pick it up, that's it. I'm not really wanting to pivot from Corki SyFen or Corki Idis to Corki SyFen. Like, it's, those are big, very costly things to do. So, but in this particular comp, SyFen doesn't need to have optimal SyFen items. So like just put whatever random items on him. We still have our Corki, Lulu, Tristana, and Sona core. The difference is we now have SyFen and Silas. We still have Bard in here. I believe you could also do, like, let's say, you could also do Heimerdinger here. Where's Heimerdinger? Little Yordle. Heimerdinger and Zoe to get 3 mages instead, as well as, no wait, I guess we need 2 mystics at least, so we need to get rid of Sona, I guess. So this would be 2 mystic, so this would be a better team composition in general against like a lot of magic damage in the lobby. So there's like 2 slightly different variants of Corki SyFen comps. And finally we have Corki Shiryu. This is the least common, it's the rarest version of Corki. But it's still strong, to be honest. Like, the Jade provide a big fat frontline, and we still have a Nomsy here, so that's also great. But yeah, Jade in general are very tanky, so that's great for Corki. So I'm not really sure why this isn't as common. I've run into it a few times. Like, the great thing about Corki comps is if you do find Corki and get Corki 2 and you have good items, then you can just like use any of the three forecasted dragons. Like Shiryu, Idis, SyFen, all very viable. And the thing is with this comp, because like Jade is so tanky and provides so much extra stats, we could like even just not have trainer here and, for example, just use Evoker or something. But yeah, it's going to be your choice. In terms of Corki itemization, like, it's very kind of random, to be honest. Like, Corki is very flexible with his items. Last Whisper works on him. But you can really just put 3 damaging items on him, and that's it. Like, it's not too important. Like, bows are nice, as we see. I've got 2 bow items quite often, but sometimes I'm just gonna have 1 bow item. So like, bows aren't actually crucial in Corki comps. Next up we got Guild Talon. You guys played Guild Zaya, you played Guild Varus. Well, now we're playing Guild Talon. Actually, no one is really playing this except me. Like, I swear, like, no one in any lobbies are playing Guild Talon. And to be honest, I'd rate this like A+, S- as a team comp. It's super strong once you find your Talon. In addition to that, it's very uncontested right now. Like, no one's playing any guild units really. No one's playing Guild Zaya or Guild Varus anymore. So super uncontested team comp to go for. So I'd say this is like really good actually. And like, I don't know, I'm kind of just playing this right now. Maybe people will start picking it up. Maybe I'll release a guide on this, because I like making guides on comps that aren't really played. But this would be Guild Talon. So level 7 Guild Talon mages. So this is what we want our team comp to look like. Rise, Lilia and Silas for 3 mages, and we have Kiana and Talon for 2 assassins. Kiana with a frozen heart. Talon's items are inflexible. It's always going to be IE plus Giant Slayer, so many swords here, and the third item needs to be a healing item, so we want either Hodge or Bloodthirster. I prefer Bloodthirster, but whatever. Ornn and Silas for the bruisers. We have Sejuani Guild as well as Lilia Cavalier plus Mage. However, at level 8, we want to find, well, firstly, we can put in Twitch until we find Bard. Once we find Bard, replace Twitch with Bard. And what else? Like Lilia can get replaced by Zoe. So once we find Zoe, we replace Lilia with Zoe. And that's our level 8 comp. At level 9, you can just put in Yasuo or something. So that's Guild Talon Mages. Super strong. I recommend you try it out. Guild Talon Shiryu. This was being used in China before. So instead of BT, we could maybe be using a guild emblem. Ideally, the guild emblem is the best thing we can use here. But this is level 7. Instead of Silas, we're using Shen because we're not using mages here. And Silas shines with mages, so we're putting the tank items on Ornn here. If we have Silas with mages, then Silas is better to use items on, otherwise it's going to be Ornn. We still have our Sejuani guild. At level 8, it's going to be the same thing as before. We use Twitch, but once we find Bard, we replace Bard basically. And then at level 9, like you can slot in a random Yasuo or something. Kiana, Talon, Ornn again for the Tempest plus Assassins, and this is another variation of it. I'd say this is slightly harder to build up to. Like in general, I find it easier to build up to this because you can just build up to it with like Lilia, Rise, Silas, Kiana, Sejuani. Like it's a pretty smooth build up basically. But this like I'm usually building up to mages and to Guild Talon mages, but then if I happen to blow into like Shiryu, then I just pick Shiryu up and then I go with this. This may be a bit stronger, although maybe not in this meta. Like I might actually prefer the mages in a meta where it depends who you're up against. Like if you're up against Shiryu players, you probably actually prefer playing Shiryu yourself. If you're up against bruisers, you prefer Shiryu. But if you're up against Corki, if you're up against mages or like backline teams, front to back teams, this would be the superior team comp. And finally, we can also play for some Exodia late game comps. So, you know, those Aesol, Aush, and Shyvana, you can still do that. Shyvana is probably the strongest dragon, 10 cost dragon right now. But nothing really changed from last patch in terms of the actual team composition. So just check out the last meta video I made about that to see what those like level 9 Exodia comps look like. But now let's talk about some pivots basically. So if I got a cloak start, or like if I picked up a sword and the first creep rounds give me like 2 or 3 cloaks, then I'd say we can play any SyFen comp firstly, because SyFen wants BT plus QSS, but also we could play like Olaf Scalescorn or Voli Cav. So let's start with Olaf Scalescorn. I made a VOD review about this recently. This would be level 6. This would be what we want. At level 6, we want 2-star Lilia, 2-star Sejuani and Braum, and maybe 2-star Shen, not too important Shen. And we want 1 copy of Olaf and Diana at least. At level 7, we want to find like Talon. We can use like Nunu until we find Talon, Nunu or Hecarim until we find Talon. If we find Hecarim 2, we can replace our Sejuani. We keep Talon here. If we find Yasuo, we can replace our Shen. There's also ways to play this with different emblems. Like you can find Scalescorn emblem. In that case, I'd probably remove Lilia, but some people prefer to remove Braum. You can use Assassin Spat on Olaf, in which case you probably want to be playing Kiana plus Ornn. So there's many ways to use this comp with emblems too, but this is a slow roll comp. It's very strong if you get an early Olaf. If you don't get an early Olaf, it's a bit tougher. So I would recommend it only if you're given an early Olaf and a lot of cloaks, because the items are also very important. So items and early Olaf. But if you do get those, it's very, very strong. Next up is Voli Calves, another slow roll comp, which requires a lot of cloaks. QSS plus BT on Volibear for cloaks, but in addition to that, we can build as many like chalices and Q cones as we want on this Nunu right here. Ionic Spark on Ornn, also good. And it's basically Volibear Legend, so Volibear as our main carry with Ashe and Lee Sin for Dragonmancer. Later on in the game we can replace Ashe with Yasuo, maybe Anivia eats Lee Sin or something, or you find another 4th unit. At level 8 in general I like to add in Hecarim, but I've also seen people put in like Soraka to get Jade. Yeah, we get Jade if we kept Ashe here. But basically, this is Volibear Legends Calves, and it's very strong, but it's a reroll comp and it requires good items, so you need to have those cloaks and BT, Rageblade, QSS on the Volibear. Next up is Elise SyFen Guardians. You require good items on Elise, so I kind of separated this from like the other SyFen comps, because the other SyFen comps you like, you know, they focus on SyFen as the main carry, but this focuses on Elise as the main carry, right? So, but SyFen's still very important, but the thing is, Elise, we're going to try and 3-star her eventually at like level 8 or something. I don't like rolling for her at level 7. Like once I find SyFen, I prefer just rolling for Elise 3 at level 8. This is our level 7 core, we got 2 Guardians in here. At level 8 we put in Soraka to get in Jade. In general, however, if you find Pike instead, you can put in Pike, and then we can have Pike plus Talon and remove Silas, so we can do that. And this is like super capped. This is like my preferred version. It's like more expensive. I think this is better than just having Soraka, but in general, like just having Soraka is easier, and you won't have the luxury to go this in most of your games. So that will be it for the cloak pivots. Yeah, so now let's talk about bow pivots. So if during the first creep round I'm given a bunch of bows, or at least 1 or 2 bows, I'm immediately thinking Corki. But if I don't have a trainer start, hard to play Corki. So then I'm thinking Mirage, Daeja, spell swords, or something that could use like bows at least. So basically not Tierlist, but if it's like a bad Mirage, then we need to like pivot into something else. So usually I'm going to be looking towards playing Swain in that situation, or Elise SyFen Guardian. So like Elise SyFen Guardian, I already covered it, so we won't talk about that, but let's talk about Swain's 6 Dragonmancers. So basically over here it's a level 9 board, but really it should just be a level 8 board. And the thing is, we have level 9 here with Ornn, so let's just remove Ornn. But I'm just putting Ornn in here because Ornn can hold Shyvana items really well, which we want to go into later. But the 6 Dragonmancer at level 8 basically, and 3 ragewings, Swain, set Shen. Shen can be switched to Hecarim or Xayah later. Ashe, Karma, Lee Sin, Volibear, and we have Nico for the shapeshifters. And yeah, we have like 2 bow items here. You can also like build some additional bows on like Xayah if you find Xayah later. But basically, like I'd say this is one of the team comps that can utilize some bows some more. And at level 9 or level 8 even, if we find Shyvana, then we want to pivot our team comp. So from this, we want to remove Volibear, Lee Sin, Karma, put in Shyvana. Shen goes out for, let's say, Hecarim or Xayah. And we need Gnar now. And yeah, this would be our team comp. It's exactly the same, right? Yeah. And so if we were level 9 with Ornn, then it's a pretty easy transition, just putting items onto Shyvana. And finally, if we get thieves, or like if we get gloves in the early game, like I'm not really looking to pivot into anything specific. I'm just building thieves gloves. Thieves gloves are a great item, And yeah, so pretty easy transition. Well, pretty easy to use Thief's Gloves. But basically, that's going to be it for this breakdown of how the meta is looking right now and my philosophy on the meta currently. So thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. And give me feedback. Peace out, guys.